Well, big round of applause. Mr. Sanjeev Bajaj is very much here.
Like they say, timing is everything. Mine went a bit off to start.
Never mind, when you have times now, you'll get back to time. Thank you very much for joining me. And the topic of today's discussion is all about vision and velocity. And after that spectacular presentation from Mr. Puneet Chhatwal, we've seen, we are on the platform of Taj, a 100-year-old brand. I'm talking to Mr. Sanjeev Bajaj, who comes from another century-old brand, the Bajaj. And what it brings to our minds is just, you say Bajaj and we all remember, I think we are all in that age group, not too many Gen Zs here. We all remember it as, Hamara Bajaj, Hamara Bajaj. So that's the kind of impact. What is the vision that you see in today, the dynamic world that we live in, where challenges are so many that hope is not a strategy? How do you do this in terms of the velocity of change that is happening? How do you stay right on top?
Navika, let me first start by thanking Puneet for inviting me over here, and a big congratulations for all of you. I have seen the great performance that was presented on the screen. I've also seen it in the color of Puneet's suit. It's the color of money. Very different from black or blue of last year. But to your question, and I think every person over here who's running a property or managing the back end, we live in uncertain times. Right from COVID, life has seen one significant uncertainty after the other, whether it was the war in Europe, the war in the Middle East, or even something like a significant technology change like AI. What is very clear to me is the days of planning 5, 10, 15 years are gone. You know, you plan because you wake up every morning and things change, sometimes driven by stuff happening in the West.
Say it as it is, in Trump years.
Absolutely. The important thing is, do you have the agility to adapt to the change? Do you have the capacity to be able to absorb the change if it's a negative change? And do you have the energy and the aspiration to drive the positive aspects of change? And teams that build these capabilities are the ones that will not only survive for tomorrow, but that will drive the future. And that's at least what we try to do every day.
Many people today look at the business world, the economic scenario, as something that has been overtaken by the startups, which is a great phenomenon. But then you come on a platform like this, where you have a 100-year-old brand called the Taj, the Tata Group. And I'm talking to somebody who represents the Bajaj Group, which is, again, old, legendary. Trust becomes an important part of the equation in such cases. How do old legacy companies like yours compete with the mindset of startup world, where everybody is looking at speed and velocity of new changes? Somewhere down the line, how does trust come in? How would you guide the new world, the new economy, about the kind of trust that is reposed in brands like yours?
So, 100 years is built one day at a time. And every day is a new day. Every day is a new day of challenges. Every day is a new day of opportunity. Yes, when you have a brand that is well known, the Tata is a great example of that, Bajaj, another great example, and we have many others in the country, it gives you an entry into the door. It makes sure you're there at the start line, not at the finish line. Because we live in a very competitive world. And not just the startups. I think what the startups have done is provided wings to every Indian young entrepreneur who could not raise capital, who had the aspiration, who had the ability, did not have the capital. It's enabled them. And to me, and to the point you mentioned, that's a great environment to be in. But there is no reason why legacy businesses can't start or can't restart. And my own journey is one such journey. I moved from Bajaj Auto in 2007 to our financial services businesses, which were small businesses. They'd been there for a while. And you know, sometimes, or not sometimes, every time, it's a lot more difficult to change the engine of a car that's already running than to build a new car. And to do that, keeping in mind the legacy that you come from, keeping in mind that there are certain shortcuts you can't take, keeping in mind that everybody else is looking at you. When you're a startup, not necessarily, it's only your investor looking at you. Has its own challenge, but it has its own excitement as well. And there are enough companies in the Tata Group, Taj is a great example over the last decade, and many others that have shown that you can have the startup mentality whether you're a legacy established company or whether you're an actual startup.
Absolutely. Anybody in this room who hasn't got a call thrice a day from Bajaj Finance? Anybody in this room, please raise your hands. Well, that's called aggressive marketing, because every second call, despite TRAI, I mean, nobody even talks about TRAI because certainly not very effective. But Bajaj Finance calls, I really want to know, because that's aggression. And 2008, I think, when you started this company, up until now, how have you given the mantra to your team on what is the objective that you need to sort of achieve?
I'll come to your first point at the end. The second point, or second question is more important. My mantra is very simple. One, no single individual does anything, and I, for one, don't do anything. I come here and talk to you. I saw 55,000 associates over here. We are 115,000 and growing across our financial services business. Our mantra is very clear. We are here to build high-quality, long-term businesses. As we build our businesses, our customers come first. For the roughly 300 complaints we get every month from customers of Bajaj Finance, we issue 5 million loans. Last year, we did 52 million loans in the year. Last year, we brought in 6 million Indians into the formal financial system by giving them their first loan, taking them away from the local money lender, helping them build their credit so that the next time they get a loan at 12%, not at 200%. But yes, when that happens, sometimes things go a little far and a few people get a call. Keep in mind, we collect. See, a lot of people get a call because, you know, the collection guy calls you. How many payments do we collect in a month? Close to 45 million in every month. How many complaints? 300. We want that 300 to be zero. That's customer service. But sometimes you have to put these things in context, and of course the memes are always what will happen when you build success. I must also, because I think this is going to be recorded, so for the record, the people who call are not our employees. They're sometimes distributors who are not authorized. Sometimes they're authorized distributors, and we take action. We exit them out of the system if we find what they've been doing is wrong. And I'm saying that not to give an excuse. I'm saying that because, again, this is on the record. But to your second point, and which is a lot more important, if you're building high-quality businesses, you cannot build that unless the customer comes first. Of the 52 million loans we wrote last year, 65% were to existing customers. They would not come back to us unless we were doing something right as well. But let me finish. As we build our businesses, I have always been clear from day one that I had the opportunity, coming from the promoter family, to build my business within a certain set of broad guardrails that the board set for me. That is what we've tried to do as part of our culture. High level of empowerment, but we call it accountable empowerment, because there is no empowerment without accountability, not just at the CEO level, but at least 3 levels below that. People can build their businesses with their entrepreneurial zeal within each of our companies. Bajaj Finance has 30 lines of business. Each of those lines is headed by a mini CEO who is living his entrepreneurial dreams. And that's why in the last 18 years of our top 200 leaders, not more than 2 have left us, and both actually came back.
That's a good way to be. Well, in which case, in the legends business, maybe I'll put the Times Group as well. 187 years and counting, and I've been here for 21 years, so nobody leaves the Times Group. But I didn't mean to make you defensive. I was saying it's aggressive marketing because they call you, and this is not about collection. This is about giving loans, which is they call you up and they say, ma'am, you have qualified for a 5 lakh rupee loan, which is a great feeling ke chalo, you know, I have some credit rating in the market. But, you know, that is the kind. So what I want to ask you is, the economy today, is it living on this, you know, financial credits, and has the digital ecosystem improved the penetration as, you know, over the last 10 years, as we've seen the JAM trilogy which has come in? How do you see this across India and Bharat?
Very clearly, our digital public infrastructure, starting with JAM, the Jan Dhan accounts, Aadhar, and mobile phones, has enabled especially low-cost financial products and solutions to reach the masses. And we have seen as smartphones have progressed, we have the lowest cost data in the world. The enablement of that has been tremendous. I'll again give you examples. In a country like India, we have less than 50 million unique credit card users. But we process as a country over 20 billion UPI transactions every month. That is more than the US, that is more than Europe, that is more than China, that is more than the 3 of them put together every month. This is India's innovation. Low cost, high scale, secure. On the back of that, businesses like us have built a certain set of capabilities. And I would still not call it aggressive marketing, Navika, and I'm not being defensive over here. I think it's about enabling people to realize their dreams. We are also very careful that we guide people if we think they are overextending themselves. As an economy, we are not overextended, far away from it, but particular segments could be. So it's equally important to be able to do that. There are many solutions on the back of our digital public infrastructure that's very relevant. For example, many of you may not know another program of the government called Account Aggregator. Typically, you may have 1 or 2 bank accounts with 1 or 2 banks. They have all your bank statements, so they know how much you spend, how much you earn, and they offer you a loan. What the government decided was, they said that why should you as a borrower be restricted or limited only to your own bank account? You should be in control of your data. So the Account Aggregator platform, which is again another digital public infrastructure, allows me as a potential lender, if you come to me wanting a loan, I send you a link to your Account Aggregator platform, and you can choose to share your bank account statements of whichever bank you want with me, enabling me to derive a credit worthiness of the potential borrower and offer a loan. So suddenly the power of data has gone into the hands of the individual and away from the bank. And there are many such examples. There's a lot happening on digital health, for example, that we are leveraging as well. So our uniqueness as a country has been not only in the last 10, 12 years, our public infrastructure, I would say not so much within the cities other than what we can see of Mumbai, but between cities and states for sure, but our digital public infrastructure as well. So, I mean, not just the physical infrastructure, the digital infrastructure as well. This has been very unique to India.
Mr. Sanjeev Bajaj, you carry the legacy of Rahul Bajaj. And Rahul Bajaj is somebody I've had the good fortune of knowing, covering him as a politician, as a business leader for many decades as a young reporter. And he always said it as it was. I want to ask you, you're in the business of financing in the consumer product market. The elephant in the room is, how is our economy faring today with the headwinds of the war, with a lot of predictions coming in of the impact of war over the rest of the year? Are you seeing a slowdown? How do you look at the economy as it is poised right now?
We have an economy that is pretty robust and resilient. Why? Because our economy runs basically on a very strong domestic consumption base. And my own companies, Taj as another group, are the beneficiaries of that. We also are an economy that has grown quite significantly with our exports. And while we've seen some headwinds in the last couple of years, but if you see over the last 10-year period, you've seen a significant increase in exports. And third is, we are an economy that is gradually opening up to foreign investment and foreign capital. This is what has brought us resilience. Our challenge is that as we are trying to liberalize, we are not the only country liberalizing. We have peers that are moving ahead far faster. And we have to make sure that we are at it every day to keep improving the ease of doing business. We have a big challenge today in implementing in different states. There are a handful of states which are easy to deal with, but the rest are not. We need to see better coordination between the center and the states. Because at the end of the day, if we are buying land, if you're setting up a plant, if you're setting up a hotel, it is in a state, it's in a particular city. There's no such thing called as the center. An area that we are lacking is, no country in the world has become a developed country without a strong domestic financial services sector. We don't have one yet. We still have one where 70% is with public sector banks, and the less said, the better. There are a few that are top class, but 90% are not. We have a few very good quality private sector institutions as well, but there are many others, and there are multiple types of licenses that have been attempted and they've not gone anywhere. When I say that, of course, I'm a conflicted party, which is the segment that I'm in, but I really think we need a roadmap for India's domestic financial sector to develop across banking, insurance, and asset management over the next 20 years. And we are at a great time. Look at it this way, 10 years ago, domestic money coming into mutual funds in India used to be a trickle. Our stock markets were driven by foreign capital coming in and going out. No longer. We have 30,000 crores every month coming from domestic savers into the mutual fund industry. And this is only starting. A middle class of 400 million Indians are now moving from being basic savers into more sophisticated savers and investors. And this is going to keep growing. So it's very important for us to think about that. I'll give you another area. Look at the quality of our cities. Today, a Bhopal and an Indore have shown for a decade how to build clean cities. We have corporations, municipal corporations from so many cities, including my own in Pune, that have gone and visited there. The city is still crap when it comes to garbage, lack of cleanliness. Look at the AQI quality. We all have to move to Goa eventually, I think. And then we'll bring it down here as well. And I don't just blame our governments and our city governments. I blame each one of us. We keep our houses clean. Do you keep the street clean? Puneet talked about an initiative. Why should that be a CSR initiative of the Taj Group? If each one of us were to do a bit, we would make our neighborhoods cleaner, our cities cleaner, our country cleaner. Improving ease of doing business and ease of living has to be an everyday task, not for now, not for the next year, but for the next 20 years if we have to catch up with the rest of the developed world.
So if we have to catch up, taking a cue from Mr. Puneet Chatwal, everything has to be a Dhurandhar story. I want to ask you, is the India story on the path to be the Dhurandhar story?
I don't know about that, and I think, it's okay during election time to have all these big slogans. After you won elections, you have to get to work.
So I'm asking for the realistic analysis.
The realistic analysis is very much the opportunity that I talked about. I think given what's happened with oil, look at how things change every day. If you had asked me this last week and oil was still at 105 versus at 84, situation changes. So where are we going to be? My own assessment by middle of this year is our economy will start slowing down. But assuming that the deal of Sunday stays, I would look at a couple of quarters of slower growth, maybe 0.5% lower, and then we pick up from there. But to me, that is not good enough. Yeah, 6.5% growth is a good growth. It's not a great growth. We need to grow at 8.5% to ensure that our 20 million youth that graduate every year get good quality jobs. To make sure that we are able to put in capital into skilling and reskilling. AI is coming and it is changing the world. We have improved operating productivity by 20-25% in the last 12 months in areas where AI does a better job in basic operational stuff than humans. That's the reality. But AI is not driving us out. We will drive ourselves out unless we adapt. So in a situation like this, how does India fare? It's not a numerical number. It's how we choose to fare that matters.
So, Mr. Sanjeev Bajaj, when we talk about modern India and leadership lessons for modern India, what would you say that will be the value system that has transcended time but held businesses in good stead? How will you give this as a mantra to the next gen?
Well, I'm nobody here to give mantra to the next gen. I'm trying to make sure that we get past every new day in these uncertain times. But I can at least talk about how we run our businesses. And we run our businesses focusing on a few key values. One, build businesses for the long term. It's always easy and tempting to take shortcuts when you're building business. And you say, okay, this time, is baar ke liye, I'll break the law. I'll be in the gray area. Next time I'll do it right because I'm getting this contract, I'm getting this opportunity, or I can do this deal. Once you do it, it never stops. So focus on building for the long term, do it right.
And there is an ED or a CBI lurking somewhere or the other.
They are lurking for many other reasons also. The second is, and that's something that our founding fathers followed and they tried to teach us, is what we call as Katni Karni Ek Si. Do what you say what you do. Easy to say, not easy to do, but we try to practice that every day. Third is we have always believed doing good can also be good business. We are in a country where we are still seeing strong growth. The pie is expanding. As we build each of our businesses, focus on building the pie rather than just taking share from an existing pie. Because that's the opportunity we have. If you are today in Europe, that opportunity doesn't exist. So focus on enlarging the pie. That's being more inclusive as well when you're doing that. And that's about doing good, which is good for business as well. Next, and this has been more recent, stay agile for the reasons that I talked about. Because it is not the strongest that will survive in these times. It is the one that is most flexible to change. And we can't anticipate every change as much as we forecast and we try. But the one that is the most agile to align with change is most likely to succeed. So these are some of the broader, I would say, principles on which we try to build our business.
Do business families like yours, have dining table conversations that are only about business, growth, bottom lines? How does a business family like yours spend a normal meal time?
no different than any other family. We drive to see who's going to get that last slice of pizza first, or who's going to get the first mango of the season. And we have conversations on everything from Durandar to politics to, of course, once in a while on business, depending on the age of the children. So very much normal conversations, but one thing that is not allowed is any digital devices on the table. The only exception granted to me for a year by my wife was the year I was CIA president. She said, okay, at that time you can get a call at any time, so it's fine. But otherwise, it's about conversations, it's about engaging, it's about understanding how each other's day has gone, it's about enjoying food. We enjoy food as a family. It's about doing all the little things in life that give you joy, which was the last thing I saw there.
Mr. Bajaj, when you first started Bajaj Financial Services, the first year I think I read somewhere your losses were some $8 million. A failure in the first year of starting a new business, how much does it put you back and how do you come out of that? Is it just about hard work, or is there also a mental, health issue or a mental capacity to fight the odds issue that you've dealt with?
So, in many ways, I was fortunate because I moved out of a much bigger, successful animal, Bajaj Auto, to financial services. They were new companies, but we had just demerged our financial services business in 2007 from Bajaj Auto. So we had Bajaj Finance, it was called Bajaj Auto Finance in those days, but it was very small and fortunately it didn't make a loss, but it made a profit of I think 15 crores or 20 crores or so. So again, quite small. And we had our two insurance companies we had started in 2001. Fortunately, none of them were in the limelight. So for me, the first 7, 8, 9 years was about rolling up our sleeves, building the teams, building the right business strategy, and again, as was shown over here, making sure we execute every day. I was very fortunate that an uncle of mine, Nanu Pamnani, who was a career city banker, at that time had retired. He was on Bajaj Auto's board, and on my father's request, he agreed to be a mentor to me and the team. So he was someone who was watching over us so that if we did stupid things, it was okay, but if we did really stupid things, he could pull us back. Fortunately, we didn't do too many of those. But we had the time and the luxury to stay below the radar and build the businesses out. And we did have a few failures. We got into infrastructure financing, turned out to be the wrong thing to do, and we realized we had not studied the business deep enough before we jumped in. Also gave us an important lesson in planning before you execute, and one or two others. But very early on, what we realized was that in financial services, and I'm sorry, I'm not ignoring that side. The chair is just pivoted this way. I think the cameras are there. But in financial services, we are in a very commoditized business. I can't show a great property like the Lake Palace or like this hotel or, the St. James Court where, I don't know if the general manager is here. I'm there from Sunday, by the way. You're in awe when you see this. You experience the service and you go and stay there again and again. And if you don't like it, you don't. Or like in my motorcycle days, you could kickstart a motorcycle and from the roar of the engine, there was a customer willing to pay you 5% more for that because it was a nice sporty sound. I could never get a roar out of a insurance policy or a loan document, which meant we had to find other ways to get away from the commoditized end of the market. Because at the commoditized end of the market, the customer is just looking for a higher discount or a low interest rate on a loan. And that's where very early on we said, how do we, because this was 2007-8, how do we leverage technology? And I'll give you an example. To get closer to our customers, to provide them with a level of service which gives them a reason to come back to us rather than going to somebody else just because they're a little cheaper. And I'll tell you, at those times, the largest bank in the country had 10,000 branches. We were in about 100 cities. But we found out that there was a company in the US called Salesforce that many of you would have heard now that had a CRM system running on the cloud. We worked with them for 2 years, had joint IPs, and we converted their CRM system into a loan origination system that was on the cloud. And suddenly, a year after that, we were in 10,000 locations because with the loan system being on the cloud, every store that we were present in, which was a Tata Croma or a Reliance Digital or a Vijay Store sales in Mumbai, or a grocery store, we could offer loans instantaneously. Today, we are in 250,000 such stores around the country. So technically, we have 250,000 branches.
Well, a big round of applause because Sanjeev Bajaj has taken Bajaj Auto and with innovations made it accessible for every household to acquire so many things and use technology and leverage.
Bajaj Finance.
Yeah, from Bajaj Auto to turn it to Bajaj Finance is the use of innovation and technology. Are you planning to do that with insurance? Because in India, insurance penetration is currently less than 3%, is what the official numbers are. How do we make that more possible for people to access at a time when you do have the government schemes that are there, but beyond that for the middle classes?
Insurance is a far more difficult industry to build than the lending industry. See, all of us at some point of time have used your credit card to buy something or have wanted a loan. How many people go actually and say, I want to buy insurance, other than for your car, which is mandatory? Very few people. Because as a society at $2,700 per capita, we are still in an economy where we are using our money to meet our basic needs. Getting the house, getting the car, children's education. We are still not, other than the higher middle class and the rich, the masses still don't have enough money in their pocket to think about saving for tomorrow. As I said, that is changing in the last 5-6 years, and the mutual funds is a good example of that. So for the insurance industry, what is becoming very important is how do you ensure that you build distribution at very low cost? See, there are two large distribution channels for insurance, banks and individual agents. When you think of an individual agent, it's a very tough job. It's not the most exciting job. You know, people don't get out of bed or finish their undergraduate degree and say, I want to be an insurance agent. Not the sexiest job to have. It's a tough job. It takes 5-6 calls and meetings before they sell a policy to an individual, and correctly so, because somebody is investing into a long-term policy. I think the digital world, KYC did not exist for general insurance till 2-3 years ago. So we had no data on our customers. Intermediaries had all that data. But KYC now is required. And as the economy grows and people have more money in their pockets, they will realize that when you're paying 10 cents, not 10 cents, you're paying 1/10 of a cent to cover yourself for $1 of protection, it makes sense to put some money in insurance. But for most Indians, they see the cost going up front. They don't think of the value tomorrow in case they get into trouble.
And that is education requirement, or do you just think that once the per capita income increases, this will grow on its own?
3 things: education and awareness, very much so. The per capita, very clearly. So when we see the upper middle class now, health insurance has become a very significant line of business. In 2008, it almost didn't exist. Everybody should have home insurance. You have art in your home, you have expensive music systems, televisions, your kitchen is no longer a 10 lakh kitchen for most people. But we don't think about insurance. So I think the right level of awareness, per capita going up, and the last unfortunate trigger is experience. You know, somebody has a negative experience, then they will buy insurance every time. But that's not the way to trigger them.
Very recently, you got a Lifetime Achievement Award. I want to know, lifetime of innovations over or just beginning?
I very much hope so, just beginning. No, I was very grateful to get that, but jokingly I told them that, are you trying to tell me I can't get any other award now after this? Or that I'm already too old? But this was Financial Express and the Indian Express Group, very sweet of them. But yeah, we're just starting every day. As I mentioned in my short thank you speech that day, was that we've been fortunate in the last 8-10 years as a group of companies to get a set of awards. We celebrated that evening. It goes into a cupboard the next day, never to be seen again, because we get back to work as though it's day one, as Jeff Bezos says.
So what do you recommend as a great team building exercise?
We do a lot of things. So annually across our companies, we now do a leadership offsite. We were at this property in December last year. Our top 200 leaders were here. When we used to be 30, 40 senior people, we used to do overnight treks and team building. At some point it gets a little big, and security-wise it becomes a challenge. So we do team building exercises. What we found to be very effective is we write case studies on our successes and, more importantly, our failures. And then we discuss them at our group leadership offsite. We also believe that people need to be rewarded and celebrated when they accomplish achievements, small or big. So we have from monthly to quarterly to annual reward programs across our companies. I can't attend all of them. We are now 9 operating companies in financial services. As I said, over 115,000 employees. But I attend them periodically. I'm going to be in one in June in Cochin. I don't know if Taj is a great property. I know I'm in some other big convention center there. Okay.
I'll end with a rapid fire, and in the rapid fire, I want to know.
Better get ready.
You want a glass of water? It's from
I'm fine.
glass bottle. Pathya is.
Do you
the
need
way.
a glass of water? I'm going to do rapid fire as well.
Well,
No, I'm joking.
I'm the one who's anchoring the show. You're only answering the question. You're in the hot
An
seat.
anchor is of no use unless you have somebody to anchor it with.
As of now, that's not the way this program is designed.
I'm not asking you any questions.
So no, I'm happy, but off stage we could do that. But right now, when you think of an Indian super brand, the name that comes to your mind?
Taj? इतना तो बोलना ही था.
This is out of politeness or?
70% of the properties I stay in are probably Taj. So it's about experience.
Well, okay. So that's a brand line for your next ad. Your favorite politician, Indian? And please don't go back to Subhash Chandra Bose, Mahatma Gandhi.
Still thinking. We'll have to move to the next question.
Move to the next question.
Yeah, I don't have a favorite.
Okay. Your favorite recent film?
I've not seen a film recently, but one I really want to see is Michael.
Okay. Well, it's on Netflix. Maybe you can just tune in. What do you do to relax?
I work out. I try to play a little bit of tennis. I used to play basketball at the national level in college, but that is a long time back. I love watching movies and spending time with my family and a close group of friends. That helps me relax.
All-time favorite song?
Summer of '69, Bryan Adams.
And your favorite actor?
I would say Amir Khan.
Okay, and female actor?
I would say Deepika Padukone.
Well, there you have it. That's taste and quality. And one unfinished agenda that you're looking to achieve in the next 12 to 24 months.
I would wish it was in the next 12 to 24 months, but in the next 10 years, we want to build India's best financial services businesses.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, here's a man who's got a Lifetime Achievement Award, but is stacking up other achievements that he wants to his name. Another Lifetime Achievement record coming your way soon. Thank you very much for joining us, Sanjeev Bajaj. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Navika.